Hey, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending upon where you are in the U.S. or throughout the world. My name is Michael Wynn. If we haven't met yet, I am a production sound mixer, primarily working in television and film narrative work here in Atlanta, Georgia. And today we are going to be taking a look at an overview of the Deity TC-1 Timecode box toolkit, which I am trying to get out here and show you. First things first, this was sent to me by Deity and for review. So I've had a chance to play around with it a little bit here in the studio and go through some of the features. So I'm just going to give you some of my initial thoughts. I got a couple cameras here, this one and also an overhead camera, so we can actually take a look at the boxes. In addition to that, we'll also be looking at the Sidus link here, and I've got my phone connected here to where we can actually look at, a combination of all the elements and talk a little bit about timecode. So let's just go ahead and get right started and get right into it. And we'll do a little bit about timecode for about 5 minutes, and then we'll do an overview and I'll show you the system, and we'll do kind of like a box opening, turn them on, connect them, and talk about some of the different features that I have found thus far. And then we'll spend about 5 minutes doing just general Q&A about these boxes or just timecode on a film set in general. So if you're new to production sound or timecode, I just thought it would just be really a good idea just to do a quick, simple overview of what is timecode and some of the very, very basic fundamentals, because timecode can be a pretty advanced topic. We could spend hours and hours, and throughout your career you might be learning more and more about it as time goes on. But for this, we'll just do a very, very brief introduction. First of all, what is SMPTE timecode? Well, the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, somewhere around the late 60s, made this a standard for all television and film, so everyone can be using the same time base. And it is the synchronization standard still today, whether you're working on a big budget major motion picture, or if you're even doing a content for YouTube here using multiple cameras. Timecode is an essential and critical tool, not only on set, but also throughout the production and post-production process, all the way from picture editorial to mixing. And it allows synchronization to be done seamlessly in different editing apps such as Avid or DaVinci Resolve, which is the one I've recently switched to, and Premiere, Final Cut, whatever it is that you're using. That way all of your devices can be synced, because in today's modern workflow, as we know, it's not just your one or two cameras shoot anymore. We're having GoPros in there, DSLRs, mirrorless cameras, phones, anything that's in the modern world. And the benefit of these new synchronization tools, such as the ones we're going to talk about today, really allows us to get SMPTE timecode, whether it's aux timecode, which we'll talk about, which is an audible timecode, to a device, or for synchronization later on. So who uses it? Well, sync boxes are typically put on every single camera on a film set. Sound mixers, obviously, we tend to be the people who are in charge of timecode synchronization and making sure all the devices, including the sync sound and also all of the picture devices, are locked on the same frame rate timecode. Script supervisors use it for making notes. Editors use it, obviously, for synchronization, also making notes throughout their process. Re-recording mixers, whether they're in a final mix and post. Pro Tools has replace features, which will literally read the original timecode from set and then pull from the sound rolls, making sure that they have everything they need. Music playback, lighting technicians, synchronization. It is used literally across the board. So it's just a very, very important and powerful tool to have in your skill set. So if you're new to timecode, what do you need to know? Well, really, there are some basic fundamentals just to get you started. First of which is the expectation on a film set is everyone is using the same frame rate and run type. And knowing what that is before it is that you show up on set and making sure that you set those standards in place is going to be critical to your success, and also the success of the shoot. So the first thing is how do we read basic time code? As you can see here, we've got 8 digits separated by colons. There are also semicolon separations, which I'm not going to talk about for this, for drop frame indications, but for 90% of the time, 95% of the time, you'll see these 8 digits and they will equal the hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So that is a time code indicator, and that's what each one of those things are. And then some common frame rates that we'll be shooting at, working on a production. Typically a frame rate for time code, that is a time-based frame rate, will be followed all the way from shooting all the way to the post-production process. So for instance, if you're starting at, let's say, true 24 frames per second, then most likely you're going to go all the way to the edit, to the mix, to 24 frames. There is something called a telecine transfer, which actually pulls down or pulls up those time codes and sample rates, which is really beyond this, but that's not like a hard fast rule. But for the most part, you can count on that to be from start to finish. 2398 is a very common frame rate here in the US for narrative television. Also 24 frames, true 24 for film. Also heavy VFX stuff, 25 PAL. Over on the other side of the pond in Europe and the UK. Also 2997, which is used pretty commonly for broadcasts, such as broadcast news, things like that. And then 2997 drop frame, which drops basically 18 frames every 10 minutes, I think, give or take. As frame 01 for the first 9 minutes to follow the clock on the wall. So basically, by removing those frames, basically it allows to follow real time. So if you want a show to be exactly 30 minutes, you could use a drop frame to use time code to make sure that your length is correct. And then straight up 30 frames. iPhones default to such as 30 frames. Mobile devices, now I know there are applications and so forth. But understanding the frame rate and what frame rate you're working at is probably the most important thing to start with. And then you have the run type. Run type is the type of time code that you're going to be using for your production. So in a television show, for instance, such as a narrative show, we use typically what's called 24-hour run or free run. Which basically means the time code runs continuously, whether the cameras are rolling or the sound recorders are rolling or stopped. The time code continuously runs in the background. That way, when you get to editorial for each take, everything is in sync. Record run is not something I use very often, but it could be more for just sequential type shooting. Once again, the primary difference being is that the 24-hour run time code continually runs through a 24-hour, starting from, a 00, which would be like 12 a.m. in the morning, all the way to 23, which would be 11 p.m. And then you've, of course, got the minutes, seconds, and frames. So typically, 90% of the projects I'm shooting at, 2398 is the frame rate, and we're doing a free run or time of day time code, which means that the time code will follow the time of day. So these are the very, very basic time code rundown in 5 minutes, like I promised. Let's talk about first things first. Just do a quick box opening of the TC-1 kit. So one of the things I noticed about these guys that I really like is that all their packaging just seems to be very well thought out. So some stickers. Let's put this aside here. And then you've got the 3 timecode boxes. Now, when I say timecode boxes, I believe that these boxes are transceivers, meaning that they talk to each other. So they can either be a master or a receiver of timecode, and they can be indicated in any one. And here we'll open up this box and go to this camera for a second. And it includes these cables here. And first things first, let's look at each one of these cables. This is a locking TRS, which is a cable here that goes into your output of your box here. So that's nice to have a locking feature so you don't have to worry about it actually being disconnected accidentally when it's mounted on the camera. And this is to a B and C cable. Now, B and C cables are typically go one direction, so this would be an output cable to jam to something that takes a B and C input. Also included in this is a right angle LEMO 5. So if you're working with like the Alexa Mini, let's say, typically those builds will prefer a right angle depending upon the build out. Usually you just want to get with the AC to figure that out. And here we have another locking connector. And also included is a 3.5 millimeter TRS with a locking here, which is very important for aux timecode, which we'll talk about that a little bit. And then here is a 3 USB-C to a USB or a USB-C adapter, which included with it to charge all 3 simultaneous devices. Now, before we got started on this, I actually, since I was experimenting with these and kind of figuring out some of the basic features, charged all these devices, and it charged in less than 3 hours, and they all did it simultaneously, which was super, super cool. So first things first, let's go ahead and turn these on. So notice that the sync is orange on these two and then green on this one, because that one is showing as the master and these two are set as slave devices, is why those are different colors. So I like that it has LEDs on it that you can actually indicate and see what they do. That's helpful. So I'm going to unlock it by pressing the button 3 times and then go in here and go to the screen and the settings, which I probably could have done before I started this stream, which I thought I did, but I guess it didn't stick. All right, so first things first, you'll notice here that all these have different time codes. So first thing I'll say is that you can do this via the app, or you can do it via the device itself without the app. That's a big one for me. I love being able to control stuff through an app. I think it's very, very convenient. But I also want to be able to control everything without an app, because when you have too much stuff being run by an app, everybody wants to use an app, for all their devices. It can get very overwhelming. Then you got to worry about your phone, having it charged, being connected. It can really slow you down. So kudos to Deity for making sure that it could run without an app. I think that's important for professional sound. All right. So that being said, let's go ahead and try to sync this. So I'm going to, let me see here, go to time code, and let's see here, see if we can sync these devices. Now, as you can see, it's blinking, and then all of them have synced to the master now, and now they are all green. And I just went to the master device and I pressed sync, and now they're all synced to the same time code. Each one of these devices can go to, can be set to manually in set mode. It's 220 here, so why don't we do something that actually makes sense. 14, get this on the screen here so you can see what I'm doing. 1420, and then I'm going to go to OK. I want to go to sync, not set. There it is. All right, so now it's communicating. Now, this can all be done manually. And really, this, at the end of the day, in a real world scenario, like if I was using this on my kit, well, I wouldn't be setting it internally from here. What I would be doing is I would be jamming it from an external device like a master timecode unit on my cart, or if your recorder is the master timecode, I could just simply go into here and I can go external. And now, as you can see, it's waiting for a device to jam it. So if I did that, and then I came back and I synced it, that would be pretty much, the worst of it. I did a runtime on these. I got like about 24 hours runtime. That's great. Plenty enough for a shooting day. If you're able to turn it off, and do 2 10 to 12 hour shooting days, you might be able to get 2 days, providing these things are turned off at the end of the day of work. Otherwise, you're going to need to charge them. Now, when I did do the charging, this cable was super, super cool. This like little 3 USB charger, 3 hours. I had a full charge on all of these devices that you see here. Okay, so let's move right on into some of the phone stuff. Now, I like having the app. I know, yes, earlier I said, well, it's really important. I can use it without the app, but having the app, like my current devices don't run with an app. They just run manually on these like I showed you. But having an app gives me a little bit more power. And one of those ways is making it time of day. So as you can see here, I just basically clicked on one of the modules, and this is the master, which I named TC-1M, and then I can actually go into the settings here, and as you can see, I can change the user bits, the time of day, the frames. I can do all of these different changes, including the output volume to be line, which stands for longitudinal timecode if anyone is interested, or audio plus timecode. So I can even change the output type on the device by clicking it here, and I can even change the timecode type. Here's its free run, frame rate, but here's something cool. Up at the top here where my mouse is, I can actually update it to be the time of day from my phone, which I think is pretty darn accurate because it comes from the network. And then I can actually go back here, and what's interesting is, I don't know if you can see this, but now the devices are out of sync because I updated this one. But however, if I sync all to this clock, now it's basically syncing all of the devices, and it says synchronization successful. So I can also choose which device is my master and which one's the slave. So if I go here, I can go in here and I can choose, well, here, let me figure out how to do set as main node. So I'll come in here, and I don't know why my master isn't set as a main node, but I'm going to do that anyway. So now my TCM1 is the master, and then I have TC1, TCS1, and TCS2 as my 2 satellites. Some of the other features, just so I'm being thorough of going through these, and keep in mind I'm still kind of just learning these and experimenting. Here is a camera I'll show you real quick, and I want to talk a little bit about timecode. So each one of these devices has like a kind of this cool hot shoe or cold shoe kind of mount on the bottom, as you can see, and I can mount this on a camera, and it also has a 3/8 or 1/4 inch input for all different types of mounting options, and that's really convenient. And I'll show you here on this camera, which is this Canon C70. I actually have this, well, let me get you where you can see and get out of the screen, excuse me. There you go, let's try this here. There you go. So this is one of those mounts right here. So I can basically take this device, which has the Velcro, the hard side. You always want to put the soft side on the camera, by the way. And I can just simply connect it here and then use one of the cables and then connect it to the camera, and then I'm good. Inside of the menus, make sure I'm not missing anything on some of like the basic features of the device. Let's see here. We'll go here, and let's go inside of the screen share. There we go. Okay. I'm going to get some of these windows out of the way, if that's all right. Okay, so you're looking at about $169 per unit, which is very inexpensive. I think for a Timecode box, I think the units that I currently use are $550 a unit, and permanently back ordered. Oh, the two types of connections. So the Bluetooth, this is important. So the Bluetooth, I was talking to Deity about this on a chat, and there's a 250-foot range when you're using the Bluetooth, and then a 30-foot range when you're using the sync. So it just depends, so it's enough. Andrew at Deity made a great point. It's enough just to kind of to start your day and have the utility just kind of jam the devices. All right. Locking connector, we talked about that. Talked about the importance of post, built-in scratch mic. I breezed over it, but I'll explain it to you one more time. So I did a test with these in sync where I was turning them off and on, and then brought it in DaVinci Resolve, and I was using the audio level out, the mic level out, because I was feeding the DSLR, which you can't see above here. I'm using as my audio camera because it doesn't have an official timecode input. So I had the scratch mic on one side, which is helpful for reference to know it's in the right place, and then timecode, audio timecode. So audio timecode is basically any timecode device that you send an output out and send it into an audio input, you're going to get timecode. And it's important to understand that you can change this to mic or line level, because if you over modulate timecode, it won't read correctly. So as you can see is A out, audio out, so that does timecode on the left channel, audio on the right channel. That's line out, so that's just going to be straight timecode at line level out, or LTC out, and then this is for LTC in. That turns this into an input. See how it says I/O? So now you can tell it to be an input or output. You stuck around this long, you might be wondering, okay, thank you for the tour, Michael, of the Deity stuff. And I'm pretty stoked on these. These seem really cool from a budget perspective, but here's a big question. Who are these for? And what do I think the pros and cons are these devices? I think the bang for the buck for $550 US for 3 of these things, and the fact that they work as transceivers via a app or by themselves and they can synchronize, is a great value. I think the system is reliable. I've tested it. I tested the battery. I know it works. I love that it has a screen. I know the big competitor, I think, for these units is obviously the Tentacle Sync, but that's an app-only controlled device, and it doesn't have a screen. I'm going to tell you right now, working on a film set, confidence monitoring is seeing the timecode. I know you can look on your phone, but it gives me a lot of confidence to know that I can see these on the screen. Okay, just honest opinions here, guys. So obviously these are built for sound mixers. These are built for sound people. Then the other things that I like that it's rechargeable. It's responsible. Any device that can take an audio input through a 3.5 millimeter connector, you can actually synchronize and post. And if you've done any editing, or you're an editor or anything, timecode's an absolute must. Even if they don't require it, in the past when I was doing like smaller shoots, I would always provide it. Because I think it's just a standard for multicam editing to be able to synchronize all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I'm going to go to the comments here. Thanks for bearing in with me, guys, as I go through this. Once again, you know, I'm just a sound mixer and just got these things and just thought I would share some of my thoughts and enthusiasm about it. Okay. At Michael Wynn, have you made any videos explaining the basics of timecode, selecting frame rate, drop, non-drop, etc.? No, I haven't. It's a great idea. I did a very, very quick overview of timecode at the beginning of this video. You can check out if you're interested in that. Thanks for the comment. All right. Deity Microphones, thank you for being here. I guess it's Andrew. Certain cables are bidirectional. Oh, in answer to the cables. Excellent. Not all. 5-pin timecode connectors are not. But BNC and TRS connectors are bidirectional. But you might be talking about your cables in specific there. But anyway, thank you for the comment. Here's a question. AK, can I use these units mixed with Tentacle Sync? That's a great question. Absolutely. You can use these units with any timecode system. And to me, that is the utmost importance on a professional film set. The fundamentals is you got to be able to jam it, select a frame rate, or jam something else. As long as you can do that in the analog realm, which you can with this, it will work with your Tentacle Syncs perfectly. Great question, by the way. Oh, here's a good question here. Shoji, Michael Wynn, Q. For a new user of timecode, what are some common mistakes to avoid? Ooh, gosh, what a great question. Because I got some answers for this one. Common mistakes to avoid. Don't ever let camera ops convince you that this is too heavy, because this thing literally weighs nothing, or gets in the way of their camera build, and that they can just jam it and then take it off the camera. Because all it takes is a power cycle or a frame rate change, like if they go to high speed for a second and then go back to frame rate and then they forget to jam it, because it's not going to happen at your cart, then your timecode is out of sync. So, by the way, I've got some downtime here before I start my next project, so expect some upcoming videos from this channel. And if you haven't subscribed, I would recommend doing so. And I think that's about it out of me. All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I look forward to seeing everyone real soon.